Good day. Again, thanks for joining me for another English lesson. My name is Professor Oliver and this is English 030 and 101. Today's focus of our discussion will be on parallels and partnerships. And specifically we'll be discussing parallel structure and parallel form and how those help us to do things with our sentences. And so our major concerns will be what is parallel structure and why is it so important in sentences. The definition of parallelism is putting similar ideas into similar form to create effective sentences. And so when you're thinking about parallelism, which is kind of difficult for people to pronounce, or parallel structure, you have to recognize that ultimately what you're going to get is consistency in your sentences. So that's our major focus of today's discussion. Parallel structure requires that two or more words, phrases, or clauses that serve the same function within the same sentence be presented in the exact same way. So what that means is essentially you're going to get parallel form or parallelism in the same vein as you would in any math class. So we have parallel lines, lines that are going in the same direction. They never actually touch, but they're doing the same thing in the same format. So we have a few examples of parallel structure as it shows up in sentences. So with our verbs here, we have one sentence with an inconsistency. So Jane likes to jog, running, and jumping. In order to make that particular sentence parallel in its structure, with its verbs, you're going to have to change either Jane likes jogging, running, and jumping, or you'll have to change it to Jane likes to jog, run, and jump. And that way you have consistency with those verbs in that sentence. The next one with nouns, she bought a nice purse, new scarf, and her shoes were fashionable. That one has a mixed construction as well. So we have she bought a nice purse, new scarf, and comfortable shoes would make that a parallel structure. With prepositional phrases, you have to be aware of what the prepositional phrases are doing in the sentence and whether or not you have the appropriate pieces to that prepositional phrase for each one. So, they played under the table in the backyard and ran after cars. Well, the reality is that they played. So that's our verb. We don't need any other verbs in this sentence. But they played under the table, in the backyard, and ran after cars. That adds a verb that makes this form unparalleled. So we'd have to change the wording to make sure that every one of these prepositional phrases had parallel structure. Another way to make sure that you are ensuring parallel structure within sentences is to watch the paired expressions that you have within your sentences. So, just to define it, paired expressions are certain expressions that require that certain forms follow each half of the pair. Now, there are only 5 of these, and I would not suggest that you memorize them in any form, but you certainly want to get used to using them in their paired forms. That is not to suggest that every time you see these words, you have to use the other side of the paired form, but rather that you're recognizing that you're using comparative structures within your sentence. So you're going with basically a before and after or some type of interrelated, interdependent relationship that requires that you use both halves of these forms. So our paired expressions are both and, not only and but also, rather and than, either and or neither and nor. And I see a lot of times in writing, students will kind of mix these up, either nor or neither or, things like that. So you just want to be aware that they match up. So if you have a vowel beginning that one, you have a vowel beginning the other end of the paired expression. I also have an asterisk here because one of the most common mistakes that I hear people say, and it shows up in their writing as well, is they don't know the difference between then and than. And so I just want you to recognize that than is conditional. I would rather this than that. The word then refers to order. And so you could have a sentence that essentially is saying, I would rather go to the store and then go to the mall, because you're referring to the order. But if that's not what you're referring to, then the word that you should be using is than, not then. So we have a couple of examples using the paired expressions. She is neither tall nor short, matching up neither and nor. He would rather play in the sun than in the snow. Again, recognizing that this is conditional. So this person is making a choice. So let's just do a little bit of review. Parallelism or parallel form refers to matching forms within sentences so that the end product is effective sentences. You want your sentences to be consistent and effective in every context, especially in writing. When you're referring to parallelism or parallel form, recognize that there is no part of speech that is not subjected to this. And so you might see issues with parallel structure in verbs and nouns and prepositional phrases, or in those paired expressions, the 5 paired expressions that I gave you. This has been another English lesson with Professor Oliver. If you have any questions, please see me in class. Thank you.